Good day, everybody. I hope that you are well, and I also hope that you are having a good day so far. I would like to apologize for the delay as we had internet issues, right? So I am honestly really sorry about the delay. We still have some issues, but that should not be a problem at all, right? All right, so we're going to be talking about antonyms, right? And in our previous lesson, we also made mention of antonyms, and we said antonyms are words with opposite meaning, right? So we said antonyms are words with opposite meanings, right? So when it comes to, so if we were to make a comparison between synonyms and antonyms, and then we can say that synonyms are words with the same meaning, or almost the same meaning, and then we have antonyms, which are words with the opposite meaning, right? Like, for example, if we say big and little, right? So big is, of course, like, even if you were to look at something that is big, you can even think of a bigger person, right? And then if you have a smaller person or something small, and then that is the opposite of big, right? It's the same as if we have two people next to each other and one being tall, right? The opposite of tall would be short. It's short, right? So those are basically antonyms, right? And in our previous lesson, we have also done antonyms, as well as we did the difference between synonyms and antonyms. And we said that antonyms are words with opposite meaning, right? And like we said, we make mention of words like big and little, or big and small, tall, short. Even opposites can be in people, right? And if we talk about people, we can, for example, say mother and father, right? Those are opposites, right? Because one being a male and one being a female, right? And then we also have, for example, boy and girl, right? That is also opposites because it basically gives us an indication that it is one being a man, basically a male figure, and one being a female figure, right? And then another opposite in meaning can be, oh, people always use black and white as opposites, right? Those are also opposite. If you can think of any words that are opposites in meaning, then please make mention of it. All right. So basically, antonyms are words that are basically opposite in meaning. So basically the meanings are different, right? It is different because it shows us, or gives us the indication that it is the opposite of the other word that you have maybe mentioned, right? It's the same as if we are talking about feelings, even, right? If we talk about feelings, and then we can even say you are happy, right? And the opposite of happy, it's either where we say you are unhappy, or we can say that you are sad, right? That can be the opposite of that meaning, right? Of happy as well as unhappy or sad. That is the opposites of one another. Or you can say we are happy, and then I'm not sure if we can use the word happy and angry, right? Or let's say angry and then you're maybe calm, right? Those are also opposites in meaning, right? All right. And when it comes to antonyms, right? With antonyms, it's basically straight to the forward and like a self-explanatory type of word. It's like it explains itself because it's basically just words that are opposite in meaning. That is basically the meaning of what an antonym is. It is words that have opposite meanings, right? Or the meanings that is opposite. Um and we made mention of a few antonyms, right? And if we think of even more antonyms, because we said we if you're happy and you're not happy, right? The opposite of happy, it is where you are either sad or we can say you're unhappy. If we think of another antonym, think of something being heavy, right? If something is heavy, what is the opposite of heavy? Right? Think of a big box that you need to carry, right? That is extremely heavy. If you were to take everything out of that box, right? And then we can say that it is light. So the opposite of heavy is then light, when something is very light, right? And then if we think of, oh, let's think of movies, right? If we were to think of movies as in the opposites of movies, then we can say, let's say a comedy, right? A comedy makes you laugh, it keeps you calm, you are happy when you're watching a comedy. But now, if you were to think of a genre of movies that is the opposite of a comedy, then what would we basically call that? All right, so the opposite basically of a comedy, right? We can then maybe say it is a horror movie, or we can say it's a thriller movie, right? That is basically the opposite of a, let's say, a comedy. All right. Then if we think of another word, um, okay, another word can be bad. If you're doing something bad, if you're doing something bad, what do you think can be the opposite of something bad? Something bad that you are doing. What can be the opposite of something bad that you are doing? So if you're doing something bad, then the opposite of something bad would be where you are doing good, right? So the opposite of bad would be good, right? So that is the opposite of bad. Opposite of bad is good. And then we also have another opposite. If you go to the shop, right? You go to the shops, you go to Walmart, you go to any other shop, which is, for example, in your area, whether it is big, whether it is small, right? If you go into the shop, right, and you see the shop assistant, once you take out your money, you basically buy something, right? You buy something. But the shop assistant is not going to buy from you, right? The shop assistant is going to do the opposite of what you are doing, right? So you come into the store and you buy something, but what the shop assistant is going to do is they are going to sell you something, right? So which means that buying and selling is opposites in meaning. Because when you buy something, you basically need to take out money, you take out your credit card, your debit card, and you are purchasing that specific item, right? And selling is where they are giving you the item in exchange of the money that you are giving. right? So that is basically the opposites in meaning, which is buying as well as selling. Then we have another word, which is, let's say it is, you are you walking to school, right? And all of a sudden it starts raining. All of a sudden it starts raining. What's going to happen is that you are going to get wet, right? So the person who's already at school, right, and wasn't caught by the rain, right, that person's clothes is dry, right? But you who were caught in the rain, for example, we cannot say that your clothes are wet, which means that the opposite of dry is wet. So the opposite of wet is dry. It is basically opposites in meaning, right? For example, if we say dry and wet, right? Because remember, dry, your clothes are dry, it's still sparkly, it's still, but as soon as we say it is wet, wet is either you got wet because somebody threw you wet with water, or you probably walked in the rain or something, or you fell in the water, fell in the river or something, so now your clothes is wet. I do apologize for not seeing the slides. We've just been having some internet issues from outside, so unfortunately, the slides are not showing. So I really hope you're okay with that. All right. Thank you for understanding. All right, so we are doing antonyms, right? And we said antonyms are words with opposite meaning, right? And I made a few examples of antonyms, and I made an example of dry and wet. The opposite of bad is good. The opposite of happy is unhappy, right? And if you can think of more words that are antonyms, which are opposite in meaning, then you may also write it in the comment section. If we even think of a word that is opposite in meaning, hungry. What do you think is the opposite of hungry? If you are hungry, right? But now you're not hungry anymore. Then what is the opposite of hungry? So basically, the opposite of hungry, right? We would say is full. Because remember, if you are full, your belly is full, then you're not going to want to eat anything, right? You're not even going to want to drink something because you are full, right? Your stomach is even hurting from everything that you've eaten, right? So that is basically the opposite of, for example, hungry, right? So the opposite of hungry is full, right? Then we also have the word that is opposite is, for example, let's say I take something, right? I take something, but the person that I took something from, they gave it to me. So the opposite of take is also give, right? So the opposite of take is to give. That is also words that are opposite in meaning, which is to take as well as to give. So take and give. And if you can think of more words that have words that are opposite in meaning, right? I even say that you can have people that is opposite in meaning. And that can be, let's say, for example, mother, father, brother, your sister, aunt, uncle. Those are opposites, right? In meaning. And once again, we're saying that antonyms are words that are opposite in meaning, right? Those are antonyms. All right, and if we look at another few words of antonyms, we can think of antonyms being like hot as well as cold, right? It's the same as even mentioning seasons that are opposites, and seasons that are opposites can be, for example, summer and winter, right? That is basically the two opposite seasons that we have, right? So it can be like hot and cold, summer as well as winter. To start something, right? And the opposite of starting something is basically to end something, right? That is the opposite in of start. We start something, you start from the beginning, right? And the opposite of start, right, is to end something, right? It's like your beginning as well as your end, right? Your start as well as your finish, right? And then we have something that we can even say is tough. Something is not tough. So the opposite of tough, right, can be easy. So if you even look at the word tough, right, then tough and easy can be, for example, words that you can even think of, maybe a specific subject, right? Maybe a subject that you love is more easier than a subject that you don't love. You find that maybe hard or you find that tough, right? And usually subjects that we don't like, we find it tough, not because we don't like the subject, it's just that it is a bit harder to understand than the ones that we really like because we understand that even more, right? So that is words with opposite meaning, right? Words with opposite meaning, and we call those antonyms, right? Antonyms is totally opposite of synonyms, right? And we said synonyms are words with the same meaning or basically words with almost the same meaning. However, antonyms are words with opposite meaning, right? And we had made an example of a few words of antonyms that have the same, basically the opposite meaning, right? All right. Okay, so once again, I would just like to apologize for our internet issue that we have. This is definitely something that is not going to, that is definitely not something that's going to happen again, right? In our next lesson, the slides are definitely going to be there. So I really just want to apologize um, as for the slides not being available, right? All right. But once again, we did antonyms, right? And we said antonyms are words with opposite meaning. Thank you very much for understanding. It's not going to, this issue will be sorted out ASAP, right? All right. So that is basically now the end of our lesson, right? I know I started late, um, but that is the end of our lesson. Thank you very much for joining our class. And once again, I would like to apologize for the internet issue, that the kind of the, let's say, the technical issue that we currently have, that we are going to sort out. Right. So till next time, have a good evening further. Goodbye.